get to the bag, ayy. Got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast, ayy. Let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss, ayy.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, you guys, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do, or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Thursday, everybody. We got a very special solo show for you guys here today. I'm wanting to do this now more. I mean, I usually have guests that do come on, but I want to save a couple of shows a month, at least one on a solo basis, just to kind of go over some tactical things that I've implemented inside of my business and just some of the business lessons that I've learned out there. Again, I am not an entrepreneur expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I've learned some pretty key things over, being self-employed here for 5 years, and, and especially having my career in transportation stretching almost 20 years now. I've learned a lot, and I want to continue to do that on more of a basics basis of best practices that people can kind of abide by out there in their business. And, frankly, at the end of the day, there's so much garbage out there on the internet, and there's so many people who are just trying to sell you something. They're trying to get you to do something that they're going to benefit from way more than you are. And, I'm very fortunate to have the platform that I have. And, at the end of the day, you guys, none of this is ever going to be behind a paywall. I don't need your email address or anything like that. I know I pine for it to get you guys to sign up for my newsletter that drops once a week, but I don't need any of that at the end of the day. I just want to put information out there that can help you guys make better decisions through some of the decisions that I've had to make in those situations that I've been through inside of my business. So today's topic is going to be 5 hard truths I've learned as an entrepreneur. One of my one thing that I see out there a lot is the glorifying how, be free, go be a 1099, or, just go and be an entrepreneur and walk away from your salary and take that leap. And, ultimately you do need to make that decision to go do that. But, and I'm not here to tell you to not go after it. I'm just here to talk to you about the realities of what it's really like out there as a freight agent or an independent operator or somebody who's self-employed. And if you're thinking about going out there and being self-employed, by all means, get out there and take that risk and do that thing. But, be well informed about what you're going to be walking into when you inevitably walk away from a salary to go out there and put everything on the line. If you're in the transportation industry and you're on any social media website, you see a lot of posts now out there that are littering your feed to go out and, become a freight agent and, become a 1099 or a sub agent through somebody else. And, it sounds enticing, right? And, yes, my brokerage is through SPI Logistics. We are a freight agent with them. We are very fortunate to have them as a partner that backs us in our journey to build up our brokerage, right? And this isn't here to do anything other than just to kind of let you guys know what it's really like out there on your own, because I've been, like I said, I've been self-employed now for 5 years. I've bootstrapped both of my companies from $0, all right, 0 revenue, 0 customers, okay? And I wouldn't recommend doing that if I were you guys. But again, this is my journey out there. Okay. When you have $0 and 0 customers. Okay. This is where I've came from twice now on it. And it's a risk, but worth it if you have the expertise and you are willing to grind. Sorry, it just shows LinkedIn user on my end here, but yeah, 100% grind is the key word there. It is a major grind. So I want to talk about, the comfort of the known versus the chaos of control. I've had a lot of experience, right? Like I said, I have almost 20 years of experience in the transportation industry, and going out on my own, because you want to think it's going to be a lot easier to get customers. All right. You really do. You feel like there's that inevitable excitement that comes with, hey, I've got all this experience in the industry. Yeah, it might be tough out there, but like people are going to want to work with me right away. And that's just not the case. Or, come from the standpoint of maybe you do have an existing book of business that you're going to transfer out and start a company with. And what if they don't come with? What if they tell you in the moment, yeah, man, we'll come and work with you no matter what. And then you go up and get started and push comes to shove. And then they're like, hey, actually, I can't do that. I can't come with you. Right. So there's a lot of unknown that comes along with it. And again, everybody always talks in perfect world scenarios, controlled environments, that everything's going to work out. You don't have to worry about anything until it's not, right? And that's one thing that I've adopted. That's one thing that I've learned in business here over, and again, like the chaos of control of is everybody's good until they're not. And I don't count anything until the ink's dry on contracts, right? At the end of the day. And that's one piece of advice I would everybody needs to be prepared of, right? Because there's people are going to tell you verbally, yes, but when push comes to shove to sign a contract, they won't. They'll stall, they'll drag it out, or they'll inevitably say, hey, we can't. All right, we're not going to do that. So this is what I mean by do not count your dollars until the ink's dry or until the deposit hits your bank account. All right, because there's a lot that can happen between the yes, that sounds fantastic, we're going to work with you, to signing, to sending you money and receiving said revenue that comes along with it. So when you're collecting a salary, again, there's a lot of expectations that come along with it, right? Just because you show up and put forth a little bit of effort doesn't mean that you're going to have a job, but there's a lot of comfort that comes along with working inside of a structure of an established organization. That's something that I took for granted when I started out, right? Like I had no idea how fortunate I was in that moment to work inside of a well-oiled system that I was in, because when you're working for some of those big box companies that are out there across every industry, this isn't just a transportation thing. There's a comfort that comes along with it that like 50, 60 years of systems and trial and errors have led you to where you are today, where you can kind of plug and play in that environment that comes along with it. And when you're out there on your own, none of that exists. All right. None of that exists. You have to build a sales system that you need to utilize to follow. Like if you've never actually prospected before, if you've been fed leads, for example, because that's what happens at some of these organizations. You're given a lead list, right? And then you're like, hey, just start dialing. If you've never had to build a lead list from scratch, right? Because maybe you don't have the money to pay for lead generation software. And you're like, what do I do? So that's a system that you need to build out there. And there's a comfort that comes along when you're operating inside of it that goes away when you're out on your own. Okay. You have to develop that. And that's why, a couple of weeks back when I was talking on that other solo episode, that's like what consumes so much of your time. That's why you seem so busy early on is because you don't know what you're actually doing. I didn't know what I was doing. I fucking stared at my computer screen way more often than not because I didn't know what the hell to do. Right? Like there's no playbook to any of this. You have ideas, you have guesses, but like you have to work through a lot of that and build up those systems. Now it's like, one of the comments that I get a lot about the show is I don't see how you do it 5 days a week. But it's like now it's I don't want to call it easy, but it's taken me 5 years to get to this point where now I'm from a guest acquisition strategy, like I got guests through the month of June already scheduled, right? Like I never had that when I first started because nobody knew who the fuck I was. So it's like from my perspective, it takes time to develop it. And that's why you seem so busy early on. And there's a big difference between being busy and being effective with your time. And now I feel like in both of my companies, I'm very effective with my time because I've built up systems in a lot more rapid pace that I follow, that I execute day in and day out. Not every day, right? Because the human emotion, the human factor does come in. And there are days where I am not as effective as I am on other days. But what I have learned over these 5 years is I don't usually let one day turn into two. And I definitely don't let 2 days turn into three when it comes to certain things, because at the end of the day, guys, I'm a human being. I have shitty days just like everybody else out there. But again, I've shortened that window that comes along with it, right? So from my perspective, the number one thing, the 5 hard truths is the comfort of the known, which is operating, and working for an established company, operating inside of a system and getting a direct deposit every couple weeks is way, way more reassuring in your life than when you're out there in the chaos of building something on your own, when you have no systems, you have no revenue, you have no customers, you got nothing, right? So there's a lot to be said about going out there and learning on somebody else's dime, essentially, and learning an industry, and then going out on your own when you have a little bit better bearings that comes along with it. Second one, relationships are literally everything. One thing I would put as like possibly the most important step you're going to take if you're going to go out on your own is networking. Network with everybody. All right. Like, go out there and introduce yourself to literally everybody. I don't care. Start with your family, start with your friends, start with the people that you talk to every single day. Let everybody know what you do. Join entrepreneur groups that are out there. If you're wherever you're at, go to the local chamber of commerce, join something that, most decent metropolitan areas have chambers of commerce. And then they also have SBA, small business administrations. Just get out there and talk to them and try and network with other business owners. Okay. And what you will find is there are a lot more people who are willing to help if you're willing to ask, but you need to be aware when you're networking with people, what your ask is from a time standpoint. I can't take time during my day to take pick your brain phone calls anymore. All right. Because my day is highly structured from a revenue generation standpoint. When I am at work, I am here to run my business. I am here to grow my business and take care of my customers and add customers to that. I cannot talk to anybody at 11 a.m. on a fucking Tuesday to pick my brain about shit. All right. I wasn't aware of that early on because my schedule was wide open. I thought everybody's schedule was wide open, and it kind of bothered me at first. But then I was fortunate to know some other high performing people who were like, dude, no, you got to talk to people at this time, offer to talk to them after hours and stuff like that. So, that is one thing that I would go out and network like you could not imagine. Network with anybody and everybody. If you're flying, you're on vacation, just invest in some company swag, have a whatever your business name is on a polo shirt, wear that everywhere. Stop wearing other brands. I will almost be caught dead wearing somebody else's brand at this point when I'm out in public, outside of going to the gym. If I'm traveling anywhere, if I'm out anywhere, it's Freight Coach branded attire when I'm flying. It's Freight Coach branded attire when I'm driving around. That is just the way that I roll, because you are a billboard and you need to be out there and you need to market yourself and network what you do to in a point of borderline annoyance with other people. But again, like I had mentioned earlier, everybody's good until they're not. And you want to be that person that they think of when they're inevitably faced with that situation that, hey, we're not good. We need some help with that. Another one is cash flow. Cash flow is literally everything. Okay. It's the biggest killer of almost every business out there is strained cash flow, hiccups, any of that stuff out there. I would go back and I would save as much as humanly possible early on. And, you might not have that luxury at the end of the day. All right. You might not have that luxury because most people, when they go out, again, it's exciting to want to start a business when you're getting money every couple of weeks from a salary. Okay. It's really exciting to take that leap and go out there on your own and do all of that stuff when you're receiving a salary. But everybody hits that inevitable wall of oh shit, what did I do? When the money stops coming in. All right. At least I went through this. And you're going to have to possibly, not every time. I'm just talking about my journey here. You're going to possibly have to deplete your savings account. You're going to have to empty your 401k just to pay the bills at your house, right? You're going to have to get a part-time job. Like I delivered pizzas for the first 8 months that I had worked for myself, right? To just be able to afford to pay my bills and to feed my family while I was depleting my savings account, while I was depleting my 401k to buy shit, because again, you need stuff that comes along with it just to be able to get to a point, and again, like this isn't everybody, but like for me, it took me, I think it took me 9 months, no, almost a year to actually like break even. I think it took me 9 months to actually hit the first time that I broke even in my business, and then I broke even with like my household expenses too, right? Because as a solo operator and everything, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was using my personal credit card to make expenses for my business. Unfortunately, I had a CPA who's like, no, we need to get you a business credit card. We need to separate all of those. We got to clean up your books now. Shout out Joe Chandler here in Phoenix. But, again, it was a way for me to keep that separate. But, and then it took me 12 months to like consistently break even. And then month 15 is when I actually made a little bit of money for the first time out there. Right. And, fortunately working with the CPA. So I would highly recommend finding a CPA for you guys to work with to help you manage your cash flow, to help you structure your revenues, right? Like when you go out there and say you make $10,000 in a month, what are you setting aside for taxes? What are you setting aside for an emergency fund in savings? And you need to work and structure that, because again, cash flow is everything. Because like you are going to have like really good months early on, and then you're going to have really shitty months. And sometimes that's plural, right? You might have a record month in April, and then May, June, July sucks, right? So it's like you need those emergency reserves. You need that structure, financial structure behind the scenes to protect your business, so you don't have to fold up shop and eventually have to make that hard decision, right? Like that is an inherent risk of going out on your own. Okay. It's building up your cash flow, building up your coffers, so you can sustain through those down months and because again, it happens, right? And then most of us have families, right? Like most of us have mortgages, and you got rent, and you got vehicle payments and everything else, right? So look out in there, and I would say get out there and just try and build that up as soon as possible. Now, I want to talk about the term freedom and how big of a myth that really is, right? And again, I'm talking in like the early stages of when you're out on your own, because again, that's one of the biggest appealing things, right? Like in all honesty, you guys, when I'm done with this show, I could fucking go home and hang out for the rest of the day. I'm not going to lose my job for it, right? Like I don't have to ask anybody's permission to go out and do that, but like, I'm not going to grow. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to progress forward in my business with that, right? So it's like, there's this idea that it's like, oh, I'm my own boss. I'm free. I can do whatever I want. And that's very true, right? Like you literally can, but are you going to be able to sustain? Are you going to be able to actually stay in business? Because you might be able to do that, but you're going to realize really quick that you're damn near on call 24/7, 365 for a lot longer than you probably want when you're out on your own, even when you're hiring people and everything else that comes along with it, because it's on you, right? Literally every difficult conversation that needs to be had is on you. All right. Like if my organization fails or drops the ball with a customer, who has to make that? I have to make that call, right? Like that, there's nobody else that I can reach out to. There's no mythical person that's just going to come in and solve my problems for me. I have to do that. If there's delays on stuff, I have to have those difficult conversations. If I max out a credit card, I have to fix that shit, right? So it's like you think that there's this, you're just going to be able to coast through and everything, and that just could not be further from the truth. But at the end of the day, you need to be aware of that, right? Like freedom and the ability to kind of come and go as you please is very appealing, but it's also very dangerous if you think that you can just put your feet up and you can just work 8 to 3 every single day and just put your feet up and go home and fuck off for the rest of the day, or even worse, you work 8 to noon, or, maybe you take Mondays and Fridays off and you think, oh, I can just do this by working Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and stuff like that. Right. So again, and then a lot of this is in the beginning, you guys, because there is so much that you need to do to build the structure of your business to be able to hire people and then build systems around that where, you're going to eventually shift from an operator to an executive. But like that takes a lot more work than I think is ever given credit, or at least anybody's content out there that I've seen for the most part. None of that is ever talked about, right? There's always, oh, go be your own boss. You're going to, you can go play golf every day, and you really can, right? You can go do all of that if you want to stay exactly where you are or never grow at all, right? So if you're motivated, if you're disciplined to want more and to do more, you're not going to feel as free from everything, especially not when you first get started. I know I probably work more now than I ever have because this has been way harder than I thought it was going to be completely honest. But it's way, as Sonny said in the comments there, it's been way more rewarding overall. And I'm very fortunate to have the lessons that I've been taught through all of this stuff. And, one of the things I also wanted to talk about is what I would do differently if I started from scratch again. And I've already started 2 businesses with 0 customers and 0 revenue. And I'm going to keep talking about this because it's way harder than you think. If I was to go back to do this all over again, I would go and get a full-time job working at night. I would go work 4 to midnight somewhere, and then I would live on probably 6 hours of sleep, and I would start, from 6:30 to 3:30 or whatever that looks like during the day to build this up. Because that's it. It's a lot of stress, you guys. It's a lot more stress than you think to get it started. But I would never walk away from money. And then, again, if you have a day job or whatever, work on it at night until you have an actual proven concept out there and some actual revenue starting to come in. I think that, it took me a lot longer to get started because I was working out of a lot of desperation early on because I didn't have any money, right? Like I literally had nothing, you guys. When I'm not trying to say this because I need a pity party at all, but like I had fucking nothing. And I would do that differently now. I would work nights, or I would work a day job during the day, and I'd work on the business at night to build stuff up to get some actual revenue coming in. So I wouldn't walk in and have nothing and completely deplete my savings and deplete my 401k. Like I don't have a retirement, you guys. All of this is my retirement. All right. So just throwing that out there. That's just one thing that I would definitely do differently out there. I want to talk about some of the some other things here, with being decisive. This is the human element of a lot of this is never talked about out there, right? Like the human emotions. That's never factored in from the perfect world controlled environments that you see out there on social media. With a lot of this about just quitting your day job and going out on your own and just, betting the farm on you. And again, I'm all about that if you actually understand with what you're getting yourself into. But, listen to step number 5 there on what I would do differently before you go and do all of that. One thing, resilience and decisiveness are 2 key traits I want you to really focus on. Because again, you need to be resilient. You need to be resourceful. And I know that that's 2 different things there, but like you need to be very resilient because it's so much trial and error. There's so much failure that comes along with it. And I don't want to hear this. Oh, I never fail. I just learn. No, you failed. And then you learned from that failure. And then you made a decision to move forward in a different direction. That's the reality of it, right? I don't care what motivational shit you want to throw behind it. It is a failure. Then you change your ways and then you move forward. All right. And then, with that being said, though, you need to be decisive. Like I would rather make a decision and be wrong than wallow in it, right? Because like you have to be quick, fast, and nimble out there. And just decisiveness is everything in that, right? Curiosity. That's another thing too. There's some bonus ones. I am completely okay with not knowing everything now. Like, I'm actually very aware how little I know. Do I know some stuff? Yes, of course I do, but I have a lot more that I need to learn. That just comes with, relentless curiosity at the end of the day. Like, everything that I do outside of work, whether it's the books I read, the podcasts I listen to, the entrepreneur group that I'm involved in, the networking that I do with other business owners to, go through situations to better prepare myself for the future and everything. Like, it's a nonstop thing. And that's back to the whole freedom thing, right? Like, how I spend my time outside of the office is just as, if not more important than how I spend my time when I'm in the office, because it's a constant evolution of how do I get better? How do I improve in all facets of my life, right? I need to improve physically, mentally, got to be a better husband, got to be a better father, all of that stuff. I'm just on a constant pursuit of trying to improve my life out there. But I do want to end the show here. So again, my 5 things out there, the 5 hard realities is the comfort of the known versus the chaos that comes along with being out on your own. Relationships, networking, all of that. Cash flow. Number 3, cash flow. Freedom, how it's a myth. And then number 5 is what I would do differently out there. And if you're just tuning in now, you can go back and listen to the replay of all of this to kind of get those as, more in-depth answer. But, I do want to talk about the pros of all of this, right? Like, there is a lot of potential, and I want to highlight potential to increase your income. All right. Ton of potential that comes along with it, right? But potential is a very dangerous word because it does not happen quick. There is that flexibility, there is that independence that comes along with being out on your own. Okay, there is, but it is a very slippery slope. All right, it can be a very slippery slope. And then there are some ventures that have very low startup costs, especially in today's day and age, right? Like being an independent freight agent, for example, very low startup costs. Internet, cell phone, computer. That's really all you need because they supply all of the technology, the insurance, all of that stuff that comes along with it. And then, it's also, another thing about being a freight agent, at the end of the day is it's scalable. You can hire people underneath you. You can hire W-2 employees to come in and manage everything, and you can build that out and operate inside of that. And, ultimately, having that expertise inside of there and that constant pursuit of education is very key. But, again, I want to also talk about the cons of being out on your own or being a freight agent. There is no salary. All right. There is no base pay. You might be getting so used to that direct deposit hitting every 2 weeks. And if you're out on your own, and again, it's easy to say this when you're receiving money and you're receiving a salary. It's easy to say how you'll be okay until it stops. And then you look at your bank account and you're like, shit, I didn't get my deposit today. And you're like, damn it, that's right, I'm out on my own. And then you got to get to work. And then again, you're on your own, right? Like nobody's coming to do this. Nobody's going to come and make your sales calls for you. Nobody's going to make those difficult conversations, with customers when you inevitably drop the ball on some stuff. Nobody's doing that for you but you. All right. And then obviously there's, getting customers is one thing, but keeping customers for the long term, that's a whole other ball game. There's a lot that comes along with it. You got to do a lot right at the end of the day. And then again, you got to make money. All right. Like you got to make margin. You got to make profit for your business. You got to control your cash flow and get along with that. And if you don't grow and you burn through your cash reserves and you go out of business because you didn't manage your cash flow properly, that is a con that comes along with this. And then, from at the end of the day, you guys, I just think that you need to do some deep soul searching and talk to as many people as possible before you go out on your own, before you walk away from it, because ultimately entrepreneurship is extremely glorified out there. It's very rewarding and there's a lot of great feelings that come along with it, but it is okay to not want to be an entrepreneur. It is okay to want to be an intrapreneur or be an executive inside of a system. Because you know what? It might not be for you and that's okay. And, if you don't want to make that leap because you want to work inside of a system and you work for a really quality organization out there that provides for your family and gives you some flexibility and gives you the life that you want, that is completely okay to stay inside of that because to some, it's not worth it. All right. And then you're going to look back on it. So again, if you're going to do it, just do your research. Research the hell out of it, you guys, and just don't make an emotional decision as best as possible out there. But those are my 5 things, you guys, and then some on top of that. I'm just going to continue to put these out there because, again, I just want to speak the truth about a lot of this, because I'm not trying to make anything off of any of the viewers on this show, right? Like, I don't need you to sign up for fucking anything from me. I don't need your contact information to go out there and sell it and exploit any of that. I just want to tell you guys my story and my journey as it goes and builds up as we go into building the largest transportation company in North American history. But that's going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. I got a guest coming on for tomorrow. As always, you guys, if you got value in what you heard, subscribe to the show. If you're feeling really ambitious after this one, rank the show on iTunes and Spotify, you guys, because if you saw value, that's how your network's going to see value as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out money, anything. Hey, ooh, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when I'm getting to the back. Hey, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast.